they didn't score again for forever. What did you tell them, or what did you guys do after?
We just had to refocus our attention back on defense, which we kind of lacked in the first half. We weren't really in passing lanes. We had some possessions, but this whole year, the big games that we won it with defense. We can kind of score. We got kids that can score. We got kids that can make shots, but it's got to come on the defensive end that we can win games in a tournament situation where it's one and done. And I just said we need to, even though we're winning big, I said I don't like our effort. We're not giving enough effort. And after that, I thought they gave a little bit more.
And what's it like? I know you kind of have what people consider the easier half of the bracket. How do you guard against that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a game like tonight where, like the kid, some of our kids that traditionally would be fired up for it or, really amped for it, but there's still a hangover from Friday night. We're not going to lie. We're not going to kid ourselves. I just told them in the locker room, I said, just admit that, you weren't pumped up for Rao. I mean, let's just admit it. We won. Well, let's move forward. But we cannot go any further with this attitude, right? And I think they all understood that.
Do you worry about losing momentum playing a game like this? Not necessarily against Ryle, but just the fact you win you're up by 22 early in the second half.
I mean, you kind of do, just because certain guys, they get amped up for certain teams, and it's very hard to do that. I mean, you do somewhat guard against that, but really you just gotta, like what I did, just call a timeout and just try to get them refocused. And if they're not refocused, then the bench is probably where they're best at. So, but yeah, I mean, always trying to get the momentum. I wish we could play like the Newcastle and Holmes every night with that intensity. It's just not realistic with 16, 17-year-old kids.
Sure.
What about Bo? I mean, I know you said some guys weren't pumped up, but Bo obviously stepped up tonight. I mean,
yeah.
Just talk a little bit about
what Bo gives us that added dimension, that just that really good athlete who gets off the floor real well, gets his hands on a lot of rebounds. I think tonight he had 8 rebounds, 4 offensive, 4, just really, and that's what we need him to do. He needs to be an energy guy, and by doing that, he's going to get some easy baskets because, we don't technically have to have, Nick scoring all the points. It's great to have Bo break out, and he did struggle through the year. I mean, sophomore slump or whatever you want to call it, but he's really amped it up. He's always ready in practice. He's just one of those kids that got a lot of confidence.
How important knowing, who's on the other side of the bracket? Obviously, Holmes is tough inside. You just played them. Newcath especially big inside. How important is it for Bo and Sawyer and Zach and Mark to play well?
It's very important because you got to get them prepared for those games. Regardless of, you're never looking ahead, but we need our post players to play well. Our guards, for the most part, will play real well, but if we can get rebounds and get some stops, we need our bigs to set screens, do other things to get our shooters open. And for the most part of the year, we've been able to do that. But our bigs, I like the rotation with our bigs too, because we get a little bit more, we can move Tobes in and out and not really exhaust him too much.
When you saw these guys who started the year, the score was 70s and in the 60s. Talk about the Pacers. We're down to 52-30.
Yeah, grind it out. I think part of it is just the atmosphere, the arena feel, and the kids really, we didn't get a chance to practice here. So, I think it's just that whole backdrop too. I think it's part of it's the floor and just they're used to a wall, and, part of it is just that sense of just not being ready, depending on who we play. But I think, as we get more and more, maybe you get a chance to practice here, more games here, we'll be shooting better, for sure.
The other thing that stands out is the stat sheet, 21 points off turnovers. You scored 50, that's about 40% of your points right there is converting those miscues.
Yeah, and again, our defense, and a lot of that was, either Bo initiated or Sawyer and face guarded Mays, because Mays had 25 against us in the first game they played. We just had to make sure that we kept him in check, and I thought their pressure just kind of wore them down, and after a while you're getting guys the ball that shouldn't be making plays, and we were able to get some steals off of those.